So the weight loss, we do a couple days and it's a very condensed version of our peaceful weight loss stuff. But some of it's in the book that I wrote, and a lot of it's kind of about how to, like, what are the things you should focus on when somebody comes for weight loss. So when they come to a yoga therapist, it's different than when they come some other program, right? So what I will share now that might be helpful just to chew on is that the yoga therapist role, I mean, we have a lot of different areas we can work in, but a lot of our role is shifting sort of awareness and um, habit change and sort of mental focus to places that would be beneficial. So it's not, it's funny, people come there like, I want to lose weight. And sometimes when they come to yoga, they're like, so if you just make me do a lot of yoga, but I mean, there's no evidence that doing a lot of yoga will make you lose weight. That's not a thing. However, lots of people do lose lots of weight from doing yoga, but it's for other reasons. So you have to kind of be an educator. There's a lot of anxiety stuff. There's a lot of sort of ability to hold conflicting information in the body and mind. The obvious one here would be you're being driven to eat for some reason, yet you don't really need to eat. or you don't need to eat that thing, or you don't want to eat that thing, but you don't know, there's a lot going on there. And so yoga helps with those things. It helps parse them out. So there's a lot of people. I actually met Anna this way because she was interested in yoga therapy and she had also lost a lot of weight through yoga. So we both had like kind of similar story. And you just meet along the road, you just meet all these people that had a lot of issues, but anyway, I think the biggest takeaway is you do yoga, especially vata balance people, they make better decisions, whatever those decisions are. Because weight loss isn't really like an information gap for most people. Hardly anyone is too heavy because they don't understand that eating too much and the wrong kinds of foods is not going to be a great weight loss plan. That's not how it happens, right? So they go to doctors and doctors are like, well, now they have drugs, but until the last couple of years, doctors are kind of like, you should eat less and exercise more, and they're like, I know, yet I'm obese. So do you get anything else for me? And so, it's sort of helping with this process of like discernment and being able to actualize your goals, which is hard. And the awesome thing now is there's these drugs that actually work. So it gives people like kind of leg up on that process. But they still need to do a process because eating less donuts isn't probably the thing you want to be doing as your long-term weight loss situation, however appealing. What's interesting is that these drugs are new and they won't always be new. And they definitely, someone who's worked with weight loss for years and years, they're amazing for a lot of people because obese people, like a lot of people who are obese, they are having super valid, and I've been obese and I've experienced this my whole life. Your metabolism gets reset in certain ways and you're hungry all the time. So on top of all the other things you're doing, you're actually hungry, which is the thing that people that don't have this issue don't really understand, I think. It's not like you always look at it from your own point of view, like, oh, I would probably stop eating. But imagine if you were actually hungry when you ate all the French fries and then you were actually hungry, in addition to all the other reasons you might be doing these behaviors. Like, so these drugs are a real benefit, you know. But what we're also seeing, we're actually redoing and re-releasing our whole weight loss program online right now. And the reason we're doing it is because we're seeing all these people on GLP-1s not changing anything. And so they're in the same boat. And there's actually another problem, which is a lot of people have experienced a lot of trauma, and that's how they got there, or it's part of it. And when you eat less and lose the weight, a lot of it comes out. So, you sort of, it gets shifted into other parts of your brain and other parts of your experience. And so it's not really addressing any of that. So you're getting thinner, which is probably good health wise if you're really obese, but like doesn't help you with any of the other stuff. And then if you come off the drugs, you run out of money would be one reason. Or there's a shortage, you gain all the weight back. It's interesting. And there's lots of new drugs coming down the pike. And I do, I guess I'm just talking about this because I've worked in the field for a while, and a lot of yoga people are sort of like not into medicine, but this is a game changer kind of medicine moment where all these people that have been sort of tortured, especially by processed foods, have like it's like a respite where you could reset your brain around it, which takes several years. That was always the problem selling our program. Just give us 2 or 3 years, and you'll feel better, you'll look better. And people are like, I don't want to do this over 2 years, which is kind of no other choice if you want to lose 150 pounds. You're not going to do it quickly. But it's just not something our minds do well, is go into multi-year processes. So these are a real help for sure. And in 10 years, they'll be like generic. It'll be something you pick up at the store for $20. When people come to you for weight loss, they're usually coming for other things. So like they say weight loss because that's like that's the easy thing to say. There's often a story behind it that they don't know you yet. They're not comfortable telling you the rest of it. So as you get to know them, other things come up. That's why a yoga therapist is a good person, because you get people with a lot of trauma, people with a lot of anxiety, OCD, all sorts of mental health conditions that are plaguing them. So the weight loss is like the easy entry. That's why I started my practice with weight loss. It's one of the reasons, because it was super easy to get people to come to like seminars and talk about it. You say weight loss, people always like peek their head in the door, you know. And then as I got clients, they started telling me what was actually going on. And I knew this because I was one of them. So I had some insight into it. But yeah, we've had a lot in the practicum. We've had quite a few brain injuries, and you definitely see like marked improvement for sure in balance over time. It's almost like the brain needs to retrain for it. And we do like really simple things, like shifting weight at first, lifting one foot in a chair, all that kind of stuff before you even stand them up. Yeah, I mean, there's like characteristic things about scoliosis, but the one thing to remember about scoliosis specifically is that a lot of people go through their whole life with curves, and it doesn't do damage to them before they die. And then there's other cases where it gets extreme and starts like pressing in down their lungs and causing pain and things. But there are a lot of people with scoliosis that don't have any pain. So just like any other condition, even on an MRI, just because someone has bulging discs doesn't mean that's why they're in pain. It's a hint. So like if you were asked to like work on her pain in her back, and that's a different thing. But
Hmm.
someone in a yoga class that's just doing their thing, you let them do their thing, because lots of people are fine. We work, so like muscle testing, for instance, is a dialogue. And you're like, I'm noticing that, you know, looks like you're twisting, you're having a harder time lifting your left leg than your right. You experience the same thing. So that's different, right? Because you're not diagnosing them. You're just, when they say, what do you see? Like, like forward shoulders and stuff like that. If you do a postural analysis and then you're going to give them that information, that's not diagnosis, right? That's,
Right.
I wouldn't say you have upper cross syndrome
Right.
as your, right? Because it feels bad, as opposed to like, well, your shoulders are a little forward and you look like maybe there's tension along your front line. So there's things we could do in yoga to correct that might make you feel better because you said you have something. So that's fine, because it's not a diagnosis. It's very different. It's postural assessment. You can't assess scoliosis. Even if it seems really obvious to you, you really can't say much about it without an X-ray. You're already
So,
in the consent. She's like, what do you see? You just have to make sure the things you say are accurate in terms of your level of capability. I have some trouble with this because like I can tell you have scoliosis. I know 90% of the time or more. This is not that tricky when it's obvious like that. But it's like I have to be very careful, right, to not say that.
yeah.
Yoga teachers are the worst. They're just like, you're hyperextending. They love to say stuff to people, which to like an untrained ear the way they interpret, you have to think about where it's landing. That's all. So it's also the person you're talking to. So if you don't know, you say hardly anything. If you do know, if you're talking to a PT and you're like, it looks like you're hyperextending in your knees. Have you noticed that? Like, that's not so unreasonable. If it's a yoga student doing down dog, they can think hyperextension is a disease state, you know, like that requires immediate medical attention. So it's a lot of it's like that. If you're just in general working, I just
Mhm.
kind of go about my business. Let me see this. Can you turn to your side? Can you do this thing for me? And then I tell them beforehand, I'm going to write a bunch of stuff down. I'm doing observations. And then I kind of put it all together and I'll talk to you about it at the end. Because nobody likes this. Like, oh, can you raise your right arm? And you're like, like that doesn't feel good either, right? Well, he's not saying anything. And now he's writing and he's looking down. So you just want to stay connected and like tell them what you're doing. But that's why when we do the muscle testing, that's why I say it should be a dialogue as part of the reason, and you want to know their subjective experience. But that's one of the reasons because it makes them feel a little more like part of the process. So that's what I try to do, sort of explain what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, what's going to come of it. So it's all very clear to them, and then there's less fear and
Yeah.
anxiety.